My name is Nelson Switzer, and I'm Director and Leader of the Sustainable Business Solutions practice at PricewaterhouseCoopers here in Canada. Today I was part of a panel discussing the regulatory changes in disclosure, basically how it is that the government and other entities, what they are doing, how that's promoting transparency in reporting communication from corporations. I wanted people to leave with a few key messages from today's presentation or the panel. One, that there is a lot of discussion that still needs to be had on defining what is transparency. A lot of us talk about you need to be more transparent, but people don't really understand what that is. How do you identify what your relevant environmental, social, and governance issues are? And then how do you ensure that they are relevant to your key stakeholders, people whose decisions actually can affect the ability of your corporation or your institution to operate in profit? So that was one thing. The next was about the issue of credibility of information. So you can put information out there that is material and relevant, but will people believe it? So what is it that you can do to enhance that level of credibility through assurance or verification, which is a core service offering, of course, of a firm like PricewaterhouseCoopers. Another one was just the reality of really the role that government has been playing, or I should say in Canada, the lack of initiative that's been taken by the government to help promote disclosure, transparency, for whatever the definition really is around that. I thought it was important to do that because really what I think that we should all be doing as not just professionals, but as citizens in Canada, we should be giving government their own license to be courageous, to make those choices that can help us all evolve with regard to how we talk, how we take that information, and how we use it to make decisions that preserve, protect, and create natural capital and social capital. It's about value creation, not about information sharing. I think the government needs to take a number of different roles, or can play a number of different. Let me restate. I think the government has a number of levers at its disposal that can help corporations and institutions develop disclosures that will help people make better decisions. Yes, I think that regulations are absolutely key, and I often get the question why. The answer, I think, is simple. The answer is that most corporations do things because they are required to do it. Few corporations, but leading corporations, and many here at Globe, do it because they see it as a competitive advantage. They see it as an opportunity for them to outperform, and I think that's fantastic. The challenge is that we have an incredibly short supply of those types of leaders. And when regulation is that element that drives those laggards to perform at a level that we really do need in order to preserve, protect, and generate social natural capital, I think it's something that should be considered. Then there's also the role of facilitator that government should play. What is it they can do to facilitate a conversation between different corporations, between different sectors, between different governments, local, municipal, provincial, and federal, and interagency as well? They have a significant role to play in that, and I unfortunately, I'm not seeing enough of it, and I'm fairly plugged into these conversations, and it's a complaint that we do get from our clients. One of the things, and this has been a complaint I've heard for the last, I've been doing this for quite some time, at least it feels like quite some time at this point, and one of the things I hear is the notion of certainty. I like to know what to expect, is what I hear from my clients. Without regulatory certainty, without a rule or a regulation, I don't know. Is there going to be a price on carbon? If there's not, why am I going to plug that into my equations for decision making around which asset to develop? So there is a role to play for government in providing corporations and institutions decision making certainty. Well, sustainability, in terms of the way I share it and practice it, is can be regarded a few different ways. But sustainability, which as most of us will talk about, is sustainable development, is this notion of operating today without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. And in order to do that, we need to understand what our impacts are and what the needs of the future might be. And so that means understanding how we're consuming, how we're using that material, and then how we dispose of it. So the connection between sustainability and natural and social capital is really, again, in the management of our information and the decision-making we use. So for example, there's a management system principle that says there are 4 things that any enterprise should consider from a sustainability management system perspective. The first is products and services. The second is your operations. The third are your stakeholders. And the fourth is what we call the sector-specific issue. It's that one element, non-financial component, that if you don't get it right, it all goes down. And from a products and services perspective, it's not just about, do you have an environmental product and service? Yes. No. It's about what products and services, what are the impacts of your products and services from a social perspective and from an environmental perspective, but more importantly, what is the capacity of the products and services you're providing? What does that do to enhance the capacity of your consumer to actually preserve, protect, and enhance social and natural capital? From an operational perspective, that's about reducing your own, the impact of your organization, again, environmentally, socially, but also it's about the cultural change that's important and needs to be managed by those within your corporation, because they're also citizens. And those citizens have influence inside and outside of their community as well. Stakeholder engagement, that's of course around the notion of ensuring that you're providing information, but more importantly, and I think what sets our system apart, is that also listening. Because it's about a dialogue, a two-way. Right? Learning how to compromise and negotiate is an incredibly important skill. And again, as I noted, that fourth critical element, if you're a financial institution, your impact is not in your operations. You might have 80,000 people and essentially be a small city. So managing your impact and reducing your, sure, it has some value for sure, in many ways. But really, your credit, lending, and investment, that's where your impact is. You're actually granting people an opportunity to undertake activities because you're giving them the financial wherewithal to do so. So how you lend money, to whom you lend money, that's a really, really important thing. And many financials are really struggling with that because it's they believe, or a lot of them are seeing that it might be at odds with their business model. Not to say that they're lending irresponsibly, by no means. As a matter of fact, many of them are very responsible. However, the decision-making the tools that they might use and the decisions that they're making are based on models from yesterday, as opposed to looking a little further into the future, beyond that 5-year horizon. Well, one of the things we hear from a lot of corporations is we're working towards the balance between profit and environment. Most don't talk about social, but they do mean social as well. I think a lot of them, they just don't recognize perhaps, and the words that are used. Semantics are very important, of course, but the truth is, and in my mind, there is no balance. There really isn't. You can try to achieve, you can try to work towards it, but our current system is about consumption. It's about harvesting rather than harnessing. And I know that sounds like a play on words, but it really isn't. It's actually something I've started writing on the side. But, the notion of harvesting is you go, you dig it up, and you burn it. Or you chop down that tree and you take that material. And there's a distinction between that and harnessing. The Earth has an incredible capacity for harnessing the sun's energy. We don't really do that same type of process. Biomimicry, I think, is a brilliant concept. I remember when Janine Benyus, released that book. I think I was in undergrad or graduate school, and I got to meet her, and I had a discussion with her about, I had studied marine biology and biochemistry, and what a terrific model that she was proposing. And that was 20 years ago, and we still haven't really adopted or understand what that truly means. There are some people working on experimental pieces and so on. But I'm getting a little off track from your question, but I think that the notion really is that corporations want to believe they're doing it, and some believe that you can't do one. You have to choose. I'm either going to maximize my profit or I'm going to save the environment. You can do both, but the manner in which we measure success needs to change, because the definition of profit, if it's just going to be dollars, that's a little bit more challenging. But if it's about the value you create for your customers, if that's a metric, I think we'll see a much more successful drive for growth in corporations. So I work on the consulting side, but you know, we're a fairly progressive firm. You know, I certainly like to believe that. We have almost 800 full-time sustainability professionals working around the world. And we do a lot of very progressive work with a lot of wonderful companies. And we get the opportunity, because of just the sheer size of our corporation, the relationships that the partners and the employees of PwC have with so many entities, to be introduced and have conversations with companies and help them shape themselves, not just for answering today's question, but for asking the questions of tomorrow and preparing themselves. You know, PricewaterhouseCoopers is a lot of things: audit, tax, assurance, and consulting. And I work on the management consulting side. So I come to Globe for a few reasons. I come to Globe because, well, frankly, I've been working in this industry for quite some time, and I love to come and see these people. I come to see my friends. I come to meet new people that are entering into this, and I constantly see it expanding. And not just new people with new ideas, but new people with old ideas. And they come here for a new education or to learn something different and get a different perspective. And one of the things about that that's so important, one of the things that's really important about Globe, is they're trying to push outside of just talking to sustainability people, talking to environment people. You come to Globe because you want to get outside of just the conversation about sustainability. You want to introduce that conversation to the broader corporate context. And that's, I think, what a lot of sustainability professionals forget to do. They forget that I can sit down and talk to another person who's passionate about sustainability, but that doesn't affect change. You need to talk to somebody about sustainability whose decisions actually have a cause, or whose decisions have an effect. And here at Globe, you get to talk with those people and share ideas with those people, and hopefully they take those away and they might change the course of what they're doing. So that's one reason. That's one of the things that excites me about Globe. It's being able to come here, meet with people that aren't necessarily sustainability professionals, but are looking to be inspired. And it's a great place for people to get inspired. I come here because I get to see my friends, colleagues. Network is fantastic. I get to see new innovations in the exhibition, which you don't really get to see. It's such a large number in one place. I think that's probably the main reasons I come here. And I mean, Vancouver's beautiful.